What's this? Another new oscilloscope? Indeed it is, but I didn't buy it. I was contacted by this company. Hey, what's happening, guys? What we have here is the Hanmatek DOS1102 digital storage oscilloscope. That one says 50 megahertz on the box, but if you take a look here at the actual scope, they sent me the 110 megahertz version. I guess they like me. So this is the Hanmatek DOS1102 110 megahertz 1 gigasample per second oscilloscope, and it's, you know, standard size, about a foot by 6 inches or so. This is one of those very, very narrow scopes. I mean, that's maybe 2.5 to 3 inches. So that's really nice if you don't have a lot of desk space. Now, if we come down here and take a look, you can see it is a 2-channel oscilloscope rated up to 300 volts mean square, and it says it is Cat 2 400 volts, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt. We have a USB port there, and we have a switchy switch, which is an actual switch, not a soft switch. So when you turn this thing off, it is actually off. There's no power supply waiting for you to hit the button in the background. And when you turn it on, from my timing, we get about 13 seconds from button switch to a trace on the screen. Watch it prove me wrong this time. Think it's going to pop now? No, maybe it's now. No, probably now. There we go. So the screen is 7 inches diagonal. That's very nice, very clear screen. No problems there at all. If we zoom in on the screen, that's a little too much. You can see all the indicators we have. We'll go over this. I just want to give you a basic overview here. You can see we have our standard function buttons, which don't do anything until you bring up a menu. And then if we take a look here, you can see we have utility, auto set, run, stop, cursor, acquire, measure. We have a horizontal menu. Down here we have our math menu, our channels 1 and 2, and our trigger menu, along with a little calibration thing that, you know, all oscilloscopes have. I don't like the power jack sticking out the side like this. See, you're adding an extra 1.5 inches. I mean, where can you bend that? Maybe 2 inches of length to the side of this thing. I don't like that. That side is naked. The back is naked. Side is naked. And it is passive cooling. There is no fan. And you can see it's got little flip back feet, along with your, you know, standard handle. The weight on this is negligible. It doesn't weigh anything at all. So if we start by taking a look at our utility menu, zoom in here just a little. We have function, update, and start. And if I hit this here button, which is just the first menu button, it brings up a little menu over here. So now we have function. If I turn the multifunction knob here, we now have configure, display. Okay, so let's configure. We can configure our functions, English, key lock, device we want to talk to, about. It'll tell you just a little bit about what's going on, serial number and whatnot. Then we have our display configuration, backlight, graticule, menu time. And if we press that, we can adjust different things as well as our self-calibration and go back to our default. Alright, what else do we have here? We have save, so we can save a waveform, and we can update from the USB. Next we have auto set, you know what that does. Run stop, what that does. Then we have measure here. Now you can see I have one measurement up on the screen, which is the RMS voltage of channel 1. If we wanted to add a different one, we can just say hello. Press our channel 1 menu button. Again, using the multi-purpose knob, we can pick what we want. For instance, if we want our overshoot, all we have to do is click that. Oh, nope, that's not what we have to do. Measure, channel 1, overshoot. Okay, you hit the add, and now we have overshoot. So those are our different measurements. Now, we also have the show all measurements, which is very nice that you can hit that with one button, and that will just bring up all the measurements you have there. Very cool. Now I've just removed everything. Next up we have our acquire, which includes our sample modes, peak detect, our averages, sample, peak detect, average. So that's all you got. Then we have vector or dots, persistence on off, XY mode, and counter on. That is our hardware frequency counter. I like that one, so we leave it in there. We have our cursor menu. We can do auto cursor. We can do voltage only, time and voltage. So that works out pretty nice. Channel 1, channel 2, there's our A and B windows. All that kind of good stuff. Alright. It comes with 2 probes. These are the standard probes you're going to get with a lot of these entry-level oscilloscopes. These are the T5100s. 100 megahertz. That's in the times 10, and what's this say, 6 megahertz. That will be your times 1. And tells you times 10 is 600 volts peak. Times 1 is 200 volts peak. And these are Cat 2, so they say. Now if we hook them up, you've got your probe compensation adjustment right there. Again, these are your standard oscilloscope, the cheapo oscilloscope probes. You've got a spring-loaded hook. You can pop that off where you get your little pin. You've got your ground wire antenna, which you can also pop off if you're using one of those little accessories, and we'll go over them. So I will hook this up to the probe compensation here so we can get a 5-volt square wave. Now if you take a look here at that, you can see the interpolation, how we have lines moving up and down, or side to side, moving back and forth as they attempt to interpolate the signal. There you go. I mean, it looks pretty good. So far, everything I'm finding on this turns out to be a rather nice little entry-level oscilloscope. Let's take a look at some different signals and see how it handles them and reacts to them. This is what? 1 kilohertz, so 1,000 times a second. We'll take it up to a megahertz, 100 megahertz, and then we'll look at some other signals as well. Alright, what you see here is the Velaman EDU-06 signal generator board. Now, it is using a fixed frequency of 60 hertz, your mains frequency, which is coming from our little adapter there. But using it, we can get some different and interesting signals. So if we hook our ground lead up here, and this here, we can come up and take a look at our scope window. Come on. Don't you want to stay? One moment. So this is directly off of our little adapter board, and you can see it is at 60 hertz. And we can bring some measurements in here. channel 1. Let's do RMS and peak to peak. And let's just for fun bring in some overshoot. Okay, so there we have all of our windows. And we can see we have no overshoot because, you know, it's a sine wave. Our RMS is 12.4 volts. And our peak to peak is 33.98 volts. A little bit of clipping there. That has nothing at all to do with the scope. Alright, I'm going to switch it over to a different one here. And this is our half wave rectification. You can tell it's half wave because we're still at 60 hertz. And we've got, what, 6.5 volts there. Now we'll go over to full wave rectification. So there's our sloppy full wave rectification. There's our half wave. There's our full wave rectification. And the reason it's sloppy like that is you can see those LEDs blinking on and off. There's no buffering in this circuit, so it's getting a little bit of a pull down off of those. We get a little bit of a triangle wave there, sawtooth. Then we can come down here. Same thing, just a little bit attenuated. Then we can come over here and get a really interesting waveform. Come on. Where's my trigger? Get the auto set there. There we go. What you can see there is just a little bit of a charge-discharge cycle coming off that capacitor and resistors there by the probe. You can tell that we're seeing from the capacitors because there's an exponential charge and discharge cycle going on there. I can switch it over to the final lead, and we get basically the same thing, it's a little bit different in shape. So yeah, this thing's doing really nice. So let's change the acquire mode here. We'll go to peak detect. Then we'll change it to averages and we'll go 128 averages. See what we get there. Yeah, looks about the same. We'll go back to our sample mode. Let's go back to our rectification. And go into acquire, turn on persistence. That's not too bad. We'll have to come up here. There we go. You see a nice little sawtooth waveform there with a small bit of jitter. So this thing is okay for a little bit of jitter analysis. Not too bad at all. Let's take a look at something with a little more gazinda. Here is, I don't know how well you can see it, this is a 1 megahertz square wave oscillator. We'll hook her up here. And we're going to want to turn our persistence off. And we'll hit their auto set there and let it do its thing. Pretty good. 1.00004 megahertz. It's capturing that quite well. Now, the acid test. If I can pick it up. Again, we're going to use a square wave oscillator, but this one is 100 megahertz. So it's got even more gazinda in it. I bet you this wave doesn't look as square. And that's not really any fault of the oscilloscope. It's more a fault of the board and the way I have things set up here. So here we goes. Yep, see, that looks almost sine wave-ish, even though it is outputting a square wave. So there you go, 840 millivolts, is that right? Yeah, odd. Oopsies. Okay. Peak to peak of 2.3. Okay, peak to peak 2.3 volts. We're good. That was the RMS voltage we're looking at there. So yeah, this thing's doing not bad at all. Now, there is one thing that I find a little disturbing. Let's go to our math window and bring up an FFT. Oh, didn't do it this time. So anyway, we can see our fundamental there, and then there are our odd harmonics. So it does a very nice job with the FFT. Change our window type here. Good old Hanning. Yep. Other math functions it has available. There we go. We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Then we can set our vertical and horizontal division. So, you know, somebody got their summertime car out. So yeah, pretty good. So far, this is a really decent starter scope. Let's see how the cursors work in FFT. Okay, there it is. See, it's kind of blocking that over there. Let's do time, window extension, line A. We can put that right on our fundamental. Maybe that's not our fundamental. Maybe that was our third harmonic. See, we're at 100 megahertz. So that should be our fundamental there. It's no, we need our cursor menu. Switch over to line B. There's 100 megahertz. Okay. So yeah, it's alright. Has a very nice window. I like it a lot. Yeah, there's not much going on inside. There's really no reason to tear this thing apart. It's a single board construction with a power supply and no fan. Let me check the price on this. So here it is from Amazon, which is where they shipped it from. And the price is $269, which is right around the starter oscilloscope range. And they have them in stock, and they're not subject to the 1 month waiting. Now, Hanmatek has some other stuff as well. So you got some electronic laser levels. Ooh, a programmable power supply. Hey Hanmatek, if you're watching this video, why don't you send me one of those programmable DC power supplies? I'd like to play with that. $65 for a DC variable supply. That's not a bad price. Soldering iron tips. Yeah, so they've got some interesting electronic equipment there. Very nice. Anyway, my overall view on this thing is it's a very nice starter scope. Don't really see any problems with it, other than this window kind of blocking that cursor over there. And I don't know how to make it go away. Doesn't seem to be any way to move it, but let's see, measure, remove all, nope. But that's a minor thing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the Hanmatek DOS1102 Oscilloscope. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Big thanks to the patrons who support this channel. Big thanks to you guys for watching these videos. That's it. I'm out. Peace. I want to thank you all for watching and spending time with me today. A community like this is something that we can all be very proud of. So again, thank you very much for all your support of Learn Electronics. Please feel free to check out the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask, and really helps keep the channel alive. We also have an Amazon shop where you can buy most of the items that you see on here, and there's a link to it down below.